2004 has to do with the fact that they fought for their freedom and won it rather than receive it. Second reason is the price the Haitian small farmers in particular, the majority of the population, were forced to pay for refusing to follow a dominant trend in world history, which was the one that saw small farmers pushed off their land in all parts of the world, starting in Europe and later in Europe's colonies, into slums where they could be exploited by industry. And that didn't happen in Haiti until much later than other places because Haitian farmers were determined to resist it. And so that provoked a reaction in the form of a very severe neoliberal plan backed up by extremely violent forms of paramilitary coercion. The army and the Tonton Macoutes that the Duvalier dictators developed to push this process through. And the result then was very severe level of exploitation and impoverishment, particularly in the countryside.
And essentially, what he did was orchestrated or oversaw a policy of creating jobs, low-paying jobs, sweatshop jobs, which then facilitate something the export component of the Haitian economy, at the expense of developing the agricultural part of the economy. Now, Haiti had been self-sufficient in rice up until the 1970s, forcing them into these urban areas and trying to find some place to live, building facilities, building homes, living in spaces that shouldn't be inhabited, don't have any, they're very weak in structure, and so this exasperates the situation where you have either a hurricane or you have, in this situation, an earthquake of over 7 points.
When Papa Doc died, his 19-year-old son, known as Baby Doc, replaced him. Baby Doc followed the same principles as his father, as laid out in this 1972 interview with 60 Minutes.
The aim of my government is to increase the volume of foreign investment and at the same time to promote the development of tourism.
He ruled with an iron fist for 15 years before a popular uprising forced him out of office. When the Duvalier dictatorship is mentioned in earthquake coverage, the support they received from Western powers is habitually left out.
So that was the second reason why Haiti's poor. And a third has to do with the political steps that they took to try and fight this neoliberalism precisely by electing a government that could represent a political alternative to neoliberalism. So a popular movement develops in the 1980s to fight this tendency, and it elects the government on an anti-neoliberal agenda in 1990. And the story of Haiti ever since has been really, I think, driven by the measures taken by the international community and by the small Haitian elite to force that government and to force this popular movement into accepting this neoliberal plan that has directly resulted in the impoverishment of the great majority of its people.
This has included US-backed coups against the Aristide government in both 1991 and 2004. In recent years, however, Canada has largely taken over the role of undermining Haitian democracy. This according to Canadian independent journalist and author of Canada in Haiti, Anthony Fenton.
From the moment Aristide was re-elected in 2000 until he fled, or was kidnapped from Haiti in 2004, Canada played a deliberate role undermining, following in lockstep with U.S. policy, starved it of loans, they starved it of being able to fulfill their democratic mandate. They've empowered Haiti's elite, fueled a disinformation campaign, and then in an unprecedented way, Canada played a leadership role as a regional imperial power, propping up an illegitimate regime from 2004 to 2006, imposing the neoliberal agenda that they tried for so long to impose on Haiti. And this is the new face of Canada. This is Canada for the 21st century.
Canada has also supported the post-coup criminalization of the Fanmi Lavalas party, but it has been the UN, headed by the Brazilian military, that has been largely tasked with policing the social movement.
Its main purpose has been to coerce the population into accepting the consequences of the coup. You've got to remember, the coup in 2004 overthrew a government that had been elected with a massive majority. It had at least 75% or so of the vote. It won 90% of the seats in parliament. And by all credible accounts, that government would remain, and if it could be elected again tomorrow, it would be. So what the UN's main job has been is to provide massive, overwhelming military and police presence to basically force the population into accepting it. And particularly in 2005 and 2006, that's what the UN did. It went, it, you know, it patrolled Port-au-Prince, treated the population like a hostile force, and on a couple of notorious occasions went in and attacked groups of people who were some of Aristide and Lavalas' most ardent supporters, and killed dozens of them.
In 2009, former U.S. President Bill Clinton took over as the UN Special Envoy on Haiti.
And the people of Haiti had an economic development plan that I was helping them to implement, and we're going to go back to it once the smoke clears.
The plan, known as U.S. Hope 2, continues the neoliberal logic of keeping Haiti competitive in textile production. This plan was in action in the summer of 2009 when Haitian President René Préval vetoed a bill that would have raised the minimum wage to $5 per day.
So here's the question. Why can't a country like Haiti catch a break? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty trial.
This political and historical story is then recast as a kind of natural condition, as if Haiti is a place that is naturally poor, naturally undemocratic, and so on, when it has precisely been made to be such, in large part by foreign interference.
In 2003, there was a closed-door conference in Montreal, Canada, that brought together representatives from numerous countries to discuss Haiti's future. Not a single Haitian was invited, and Canadian journalist Michel Vastel broke the story that attendees had reached consensus that Aristide had to go. And just over 1 year later, Aristide found himself on a U.S. plane being flown into exile in the Central African Republic. He has not been allowed back to his country since. On Monday, the same countries will be meeting in Montreal once again for the Friends of Haiti conference. AFP reports that the meeting is, quote, expected to affirm the central role of the United States in post-quake Haiti, already illustrated by its massive military presence and relief efforts there. By the time the meeting starts on Monday, 20,000 U.S. troops are expected to be on the ground. Despite recent calls to repay the $21 billion that France extorted from post-revolution Haiti, French President Nicolas Sarkozy joined the chorus in blaming Haiti's misery on the supernatural, saying that Monday's conference should be, quote, a chance to get Haiti once and for all out of the curse it seems to have been stuck with for such a long time. Without either an acknowledgement of the roots of Haiti's poverty, nor a democratic and sovereign Haitian government to oversee reconstruction, one wonders whether the new Haiti can possibly serve the interests of Haitians.
How to make the future. Liquefied natural gas. It's like tiny, powerful wizards that emit far less CO2 than some other wizards. So why isn't LNG being used already? It is. Now that's how to make the future.
Let's pause here. I'm driving on the road that separates Haiti from the Dominican Republic. Right here. It's the border that divides two very different countries. If you're born in Haiti, you're 2.5 times more likely to die as a baby than if you're born in the DR. You'll be almost 10 times poorer, and you can expect to have a much shorter life. I came here to find out how the two countries that share this one island can be so different. With a politically volatile and impoverished Haiti on one side, and the stable and relatively rich Dominican Republic on the other. How did this line produce two totally different worlds? My journey starts here at this beach village in southern Haiti, where Haitian merchants, most of them women, are preparing for a nighttime boat ride. The women boarding this boat have one goal: to make it to the border where they will be let into a Dominican market to buy and sell goods before returning to their villages. It's international trade at its most informal. We're taking these boats because the next door mountain range makes the land journey almost impossible. These worn-out wooden boats have been making this exact journey twice per week for decades, And yet the process remains chaotic and unorganized, as if it's happening for the first time. All of this energy, time, and effort, all to transport a handful of goods that in most countries would be shipped in bulk inside one of these. We make this 7-hour journey to the border town, arriving around 4 a.m. The sun rises and we walk to the border market. This market was established right on the border as a partnership between the two nations to give vendors from both sides a place to buy and sell on equal footing. As we approach the border, I quickly realize that's not what's happening here.
So I'm looking across the border right now into the market, and you can see that Dominicans are already setting up. This is one of the big complaints of the Haitians. They're stuck on this side, waiting to cross the border, and the border guards are just delaying it. And meanwhile, the Dominicans are able to set up and get the best spots. These Haitians come from miles away on this grueling boat journey that I know now firsthand is very grueling, and they get to the border and the guards stop them for no reason. I'm supposed to open it up for everyone at the same time.
The guards keep the Haitian women from crossing, not letting anyone know how long it will be. The tension grows, and then, finally, hours after the Dominicans were allowed to enter, the guards open up the bridge. They buy and sell for the day before returning to the boats to make the journey home. The grueling boat journey, the senseless discrimination, it embodies the asymmetry that exists on this island. Watching it happen, it's impossible not to ask how it got like this.
There are a few key things that explain how this island produced two very different countries. But if you want to get at the very root of it, you have to go back to when this island was owned by two European powers, France and Spain. This island is actually the first place that Christopher Columbus set up a colony in the New World on his first voyage back in the 1490s. France wanted a piece of this island because it was rich in resources like sugar and coffee, so they fought a war with the Spanish and they ended up splitting the island in two. One side would be the Spanish colony of Santo Domingo, and the other side would be the French colony with the same name, Saint-Domingue, just in French. And that is the most important part of understanding this whole thing, is how these imperial powers treated their colonial possessions. The French exploited the land. They brought in tons of slaves, and they were interested in making Saint-Domingue solely an economic producer.
They destroyed the soil from aggressively harvesting the same crop year after year, and they created a group of very resentful, overworked, and abused slaves that eventually rebelled. The Spanish had a different approach. After establishing domination on this island by massacring the indigenous population, they didn't exploit it like the French did. Instead, they went to places like Mexico and Peru to look for gold. So they didn't bring nearly as many slaves onto this island, and as a result they weren't nearly as profitable a colony. Instead, the Spanish integrated with the remaining indigenous population by recognizing the native leaders' authority and intermarrying with the locals. The result was a smaller and more racially mixed population, with a sustainable economy and a political system, something totally absent from France's colony.
This becomes really important in the early 1800s when independence comes around. Haiti declares independence, fights off the French, and basically declares itself the first black former slave republic in the world. They do so with very little framework for a society and for a government. And they also do so with land that has been exploited year after year with the same crop, which basically destroys the fertility of the land. And to add to all of that, because they were this first black republic, the world essentially isolated them. The United States didn't want to recognize the independence of a black nation. They thought it might become a slave empire and seek revenge. The French showed up on Haitian shores soon after independence and said, "You owe us a debt for all of the assets that you stole from us when you became independent, all these economic assets, you owe us that debt. You have to pay it over the next 30 years. This crippling debt, Haiti did pay back over years, but it really hampered their development.
This history doesn't exonerate the dictators and corrupt politicians that have plagued Haiti's development since its independence, but it helps explain them. Suffocating embargoes and the independence debt, as well as the lack of any tradition or investment in governmental institutions, guaranteed Haiti's failure from the moment it was born, and a racist world made sure of it. That racism isn't just embedded into Haiti's history, it is in fact very alive today. As I drive up the border, by coincidence my driver is also a Dominican Border Patrol official. We have hours in the car where he slowly and cautiously tells me about how immigration policy has changed in the Dominican Republic in recent years.
El Estado Dominicano ha tomado una decisión de saber regularizar, saber dónde están los haitianos que están en República Dominicana, saber dónde están y saber cuántos son y qué sitio están cada uno. Ahí nace el programa de regularización.
Regularization program. That's a euphemism. He's talking about a policy of targeting anyone of Haitian descent, even citizens, rounding them up and deporting them. There's always been anti-Haitian sentiment in the Dominican Republic, usually resulting in racist violence. But since 2010, that sentiment has been seeping into legislation. The Dominican Constitution that was drafted in 1929 says that anyone born in the country is automatically a citizen, even if your parents were undocumented immigrants. This is the same in places like the United States. But the DR rewrote its constitution in 2010 to only give citizenship to those born on DR soil to legal residents. Then, in 2013, the High Court in the DR ruled that this new definition would be applied retroactively, all the way back to 1929, meaning any citizen who had been born in the DR to undocumented parents would have their citizenship revoked. More than 200,000 Dominican citizens were suddenly stateless.
It is clearly an illegal act, it is an immoral act, it is a racist act by the Dominican government, and it's happening because these people are black.
Entonces, si nacen aquí, ¿ya son ciudadanos?
No, así ahora. Antes era así. Ahora se registran en un libro de extranjero.
Dominican law said that if these stateless people wanted to stay in the DR...
This is Haiti, once known as the Pearl of the Antilles, a jewel in the crown of the French Empire. But last month, food riots broke out in the streets of the capital, Port-au-Prince. 5 people died, and the Prime Minister was forced to resign. A few weeks on, and the United Nations are training the local police to deal with riots. The authorities are fearing that the worst is yet to come. Haiti is not alone in its hunger. World food markets are in crisis. Record population levels and the growth of China's economy has meant supply can barely meet demand. Add poor harvests, rising fuel prices, and the global cost of feeding a family, whether in Europe, Asia, or the Americas, has rocketed. It is the poor who are the hardest hit. I have come here to Cité Soleil, the poorest slum in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. The people here are angry. The Haitian crisis is so extreme, it forces people to eat mud cookies called pica to relieve hunger. It's a desperate Haitian remedy made from dried mud and dirt. Even these edible clay cookies are getting more expensive, doubling in price in the last year. This is a hospital in the centre of Port-au-Prince. These two pregnant women were both found collapsed on the street.
She was very hungry, so she felt bad and fell on the street, and people brought her here at the hospital.
The World Food Programme estimates that because of hunger, up to 50% of Haitian women are now anemic. The WFP is now feeding 1.7 million Haitians and is now running desperately low on supplies.
Here, we're in a nutritional center in a hospital, assisting people that are suffering for the increasing food prices that is affecting everywhere in Latin America and in all the world. Showing that there will be 10 more million people in need of food in Latin America and the Caribbean due to this food crisis, crisis.
The sad fact that in the back streets of Port-au-Prince, one can find markets selling food. The problem is that these basic goods are now out of reach of the poorest people in the Americas. The small traders can no longer sell their wares.
Yo pason he sik, yo pason he maïs, yo pason he pois, yo pason he l'huile, yo pason he éducation ti moun, yo pason he côté pour nous faire pour nous sel diri a yo besoin. Si moun à l'école sans manger les business n'a reti pour nous bagay pour manger. Et puis mes côté n'a plus.
The startling thing about this market is not just the high prices, but that almost all of the produce is imported. Haiti has one of the best soils for farming in the Caribbean, yet almost everything, even eggs, are coming from abroad.
So you have a country in the beginning of the 21st century which is completely decapitalized, and in the last 25 years no funds has been put in place into construction, infrastructure, and rebuilding this country really. So this country ended up by being fully dependent on the importation of foods and goods from the international market, especially from the US.
This dependency on buying cheap and foreign instead of Haitian produce was forced on Haiti by successive corrupt governments and subsidized foreign markets for over 20 years. I set off to the countryside to try and find Haitian farmers. Max is a Haitian landowner who has desperately been trying to grow rice to sell at local markets. I asked him why Haiti could not grow its own rice.
The situation is very bad. It's critical, it's bad. Those people, the producers, the farmers, we have no support from nobody, from nowhere. We cannot compete with the other farmers who has all the technology to back them up, and they have the subsidies, the money to help them grow, and we don't have anything. How can we produce? Give me the tools to do it, we'll do it.
En green back, c'est fini. Pas de plan, pas d'engrais, nous pas une machine à tirer ou nous sécler, nous fait.
Total dependency on imports has left Haiti and its fragile population at the mercy of global markets. Now world food prices have risen, Haiti has no safety net or safety plan. Jesse Jackson recently arrived in Port-au-Prince to meet with the Haitian political opposition.
Every child should have 2 meals at school every day.
The opposition parties have been accused by the president of using the food crisis to destabilize the government. Desperate to try and support the weak Haitian government, various projects and an immediate $10 million grant is now being promised to Haiti by the World Bank.
where do you put the money? Do you put the money in giving food and going into the urgencies right now, because everything's a priority in Haiti, or you start rebuilding this infrastructure?
In order to remain in power, the Haitian government will use international crisis funds for immediate food relief. Of the Haitian population, 80% live on less than $1 a day. In the absence of any coherent plan to develop jobs and a self-sufficient Haiti, it seems that when the current donor food runs out, there will be more violence on the streets. This is Phil Cox, More 4 News, Haiti.
Except fighting! It's very hard to make people calm down. We're the real fear of dying and going into the water.
مستحيل مستحيل بنصح اي واحد بده يسافر لا يسافر عن طريق البحر. شوي خلاص
Massive earthquake in Haiti. A 7.0 magnitude quake affected at least 3 million people.
When a massive earthquake hit Haiti in 2010, killing 2 million people and flattening much of the capital, the international community acted fast, pledging over $13 billion to rebuild the country. 6 years later, Haiti has this to show for it. So we went to the Caribbean nation to see why, despite such an influx in aid, Haiti still isn't back on its feet. Our first stop was Caracol. Here, the U.S. built this, its flagship recovery project, in a city some 90 miles away from where the earthquake hit. Spearheaded by Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Caracol Industrial Park had a star-studded opening in 2012. It was to be a shining example of Haiti's economic potential. The U.S. State Department promised its $300 million facility, once fully operational, would create as many as 65,000 jobs. But so far, fewer than 9,000 people have been hired. Most work for Korean apparel manufacturer Seo Trading, which pumps out clothing for some of the biggest U.S. retailers like Walmart and Gap. Workers we talked to complained of no job security and wages as low as $4 a day.
I'm capable de l'homme fin paye manger fin bay m'bagan péligré
so va faire après beaucoup on va dédommager mon so va mener dédommagement après beaucoup sans préavis il faut aussi.
That's if you can get a job.
So this is your certificate that says you are qualified to work in the industrial park, and yet you show them this paper and no one will give you a job.
There are people who come here every day, hoping to snag a coveted spot at the sewing machines. The State Department turned down our requests for an interview, but said in an email, quote, "Working in Haiti is challenging, and its programs are designed to be flexible." While the Caracol Industrial Park is widely seen as an economic failure, U.S. taxpayer-financed projects like this and many others have been a boon for U.S. contractors working in Haiti. Something noted by the U.S. ambassador to Haiti less than a month after the quake, when he sent back a cable to his bosses at the State Department reading, "The gold rush is on." Working through USAID, the federal agency that gives out foreign aid, some of the biggest checks were written not to Haitians, but to a small group of American for-profit contractors. These contractors did everything from clearing rubble to building permanent homes for quake victims. Or at least they were supposed to.
We're about a mile away from the industrial park in the housing settlement where a lot of the workers and their families live. Now, They built these houses just a few years ago, but they're having to go back in and fix them.
Over the years, USAID has suspended 2 different American contractors for shoddy construction. It then hired another US-based contractor for $5 million to oversee repairs.
Les apia tombe doit soucier là le sol ça. Avec nous gand l'autre sorti dans chambre pas derrière qui passe là, des courir. Nous gand l'autre porte sur en bagalia. Il entre dedans.
Poor quality houses have proven costly. Instead of the original plan to build 15,000 of them at a cost of $53 million, the U.S. has ended up spending over $100 million on fewer than 1,500 houses. Not much is known about how American contractors spent aid money in Haiti, and that's something that concerns Haiti's former Prime Minister, Michel Pierre-Louis.
After the earthquake, USAID awarded the bulk of its contracts to American firms with ties to DC. They said at the time the local firms lacked the capacity and track record.
It might be true that some firms didn't have the equipment, the capacity, but that's not a reason. Why not you help them? In the books, it shows that all this money was spent on Haiti. People think that it was for the rebuilding efforts. No, it was not.
The U.S. government's own assessment found USAID neglected to conduct fundamental financial reviews of 2 of its biggest contractors, despite, quote, expending millions of dollars rapidly. We wanted to know where the accountability was, so back in D.C., we asked Jake Johnson, who spent the past 6 years looking into this.
They spent about $2 billion directly after the earthquake. Less than 1% of that actually went to Haitian institutions. Over 50% went to firms here in the Beltway. Organizations have overhead costs, shipping costs, costs for staff. Then they subcontract with other groups, and they have those same costs. And by the time you get to the ground, obviously there's quite less left.
So do we have any way of knowing how much money goes back to that contractor's offices in Washington?
No, in fact, companies' overheads with USAID are privately negotiated and protected as trade secrets.
6 years and billions of dollars later, hundreds of thousands of Haitians are still without sufficient housing. Many live in tent cities like this one, makeshift homes, a combination of ripped tarps and rusted metal sheets that would barely withstand a thunderstorm, much less another earthquake.
Nous là, pas de l'état qu'on nous, si nous brûlons, si nous mangeons, comment nous dormons. Là, puis après mouiller, tout le monde entre dans le monde croisé.
The goal of any of these responses should be that the next time it happens, Haiti can stand on its own 2 feet and won't be reliant on that aid.
One child in a place where more than 1 million people are living out in the open. One little boy among so many.
He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know anything.
January 2010. We're flying into Haiti. This was just days after a devastating earthquake had struck 25 kilometers from the capital, Port-au-Prince. This was just days after a devastating earthquake had struck 2010. We're flying into Haiti. This was just days after a devastating earthquake had struck 25 kilometers from the capital, Port-au-Prince. 90% of the city's buildings were destroyed. Nobody knows how many people died in those first brutal hours. Estimates range from 60 to 300,000. In the city, this was a common sight in the city. Endless, usually orderly queues of survivors just waiting for help. In those early weeks, one of the world's biggest aid operations in history set up at the city's airport. But this catastrophe had directly affected 3 million people. Most ended up fending for themselves.
I'm from out here in Boonpool, Lapland. She said the babies are sick. The babies are sick. They got fevers and they got diarrhea. So we basically we was struck by an earthquake and everything was upside down ever since. It's hunger and people is starving, living bad, you see the situation. Yeah, look at where we're sleeping. This is where they throw out the trash, man. This is not healthy at all. This is not healthy at all. Can you tell me your name?
Oh, my name is Yolanda Turver.
In those days of chaos, filmmaker Gregory Allen spoke to dozens of victims, including 2 women who, like everyone else in the city, had found their lives shattered in a matter of seconds by the earthquake. Yola ran an orphanage for 43 young girls. All had to move outside into tents. Michelle's home fell down in front of her, and she was sleeping in a public square with her young child. Five years later, we returned to find out what had happened. First, here is Michelle's story. Michelle was a saleswoman before the earthquake. She'd been sleeping in the square for 15 days when we spoke to her.
She said she's there, but she didn't feel good. That's her house. What happened to her house? She lives in Peggyville, but her house was destroyed completely.
Michelle ran out of her house as it fell down. Her son was playing outside. She lost everything.
Comme si nous toujours attendre bagaille là car toujours tourner même genre vous comprenez des fois si nous sortir nous obligé faut nous courir rentrer.
Is she worried for the future of her baby?
Ça c'est une inquiétude pour le futur pour tout le monde.
Oui.
Yes.
Parce que dit bagaille là car tourner même genre.
They don't have nowhere to go, only staying here.
Here she is in 2015. Her old home was never rebuilt, but she does have a place to live, a one-bedroom apartment which she rents. She says after we spoke to her in 2010, things got far worse. living out on the streets.
C'est ça qui fait que moi-même, je ne fais un peu de temps. Parce que la situation a été dégénérée, je ne pas arrêter, je suis obligé de descendre.
She left without receiving any help.
Non, pas d'aide. Le gouvernement n'a pas fait rien. Moi-même, je n'ai pas fait rien dans mes pièces. Il y a des gens qui jouent un corps, ils vont aller à faire des cailles, qui font commerce, qui jouent un caille, shelter, je ne vais pas rien. Ok, je ne vais pas trouver rien. Bon, je vais retourner à vivre, je vais qu'on a vivre là-bas.
She's working again, selling household products. She sees herself and her son as fortunate.
Bon, oui. Je vais dire que c'est loin. Parce que je viens pour le monde, dans un an tout en bas, les habitants en bas, les gens qui étaient mourir vraiment, tout des cas qui étaient habités, mon monsieur, quand il a fait tomber sur lui, Dieu mourir. Si on a vu vos chances, je me dis, mon Dieu, parce que lui donne la vie.
Yola didn't have just one child to care for when her home fell down. She had 43 young girls at her orphanage.
Tonight on the Fifth Estate, after the earth shook. Haiti, 1 year later. It's a country cursed by history, poverty, these days by disease. But nothing compares to the devastation of last January the 12th. Tonight, 4 Canadians who were there when it happened. The development worker who saw things she will never forget.
He walked into the building and he was gone.
The businessman who feels haunted by the past.
Depuis avec ça, non, ils ont assassiné mon grand frère.
The doctor who lost everything he built in Haiti.
I'm disappointing you, time after time.
The urban planner who wonders if his country will ever change.
I keep hoping it can stay like this, you know.
On January 12th, they had all just arrived when the earthquake hit.
Flight attendants, take position for takeoff.
The day started with a routine flight.
As soon as we reach our cruising altitude, we'll be starting the service. We'll be handing out freely some headsets today.
Air Canada 950 from Montreal carried the usual array of aid workers, government advisors, and Haitian expatriates.
Passengers sitting at the window seat, please lower your seat. Thank you.
Saving Haiti has been an industry for years, but none of them had any way of knowing how much more saving Haiti would soon need.
The weather in Port-au-Prince is 33 degrees and a few scattered clouds.
At 2:30 in the afternoon, they landed and scattered to hotels and offices. That's when it happened. It was 35 seconds that would change Haiti. Hello, I'm Gillian Finley in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. 1 year later, it's impossible to overstate the impact of those 35 seconds on Haiti, her people, on anyone who happened to be here that day. Of the 195 passengers on board Air Canada 950, we now know that at least 11 died in the rubble that afternoon. part of the estimated 300,000 who lost their lives. But what of the passengers who survived, who by happenstance, fate, simple good luck, managed to stay safe while the world crumbled around them? One of them was Montreal ophthalmologist Dr. Yuri Zelinsky.
Suddenly, I heard noise and just strong, increasing shaking, you know. And when I looked on the wall was shaking so strong, you know. And I thought that I would not jump from this room and the roof will collapse, you know.
In the panic and confusion, he grabbed his camera, and these are the pictures he took.
25 million years ago, a new species appeared on Earth. The great apes.
He's been coming to Haiti for 12 years, to the University Hospital, to build the country's biggest eye surgery department. The fault line ran right through the hospital grounds. In a breath, the nursing school, both stories, was gone.
Wow, it was a huge cement blocks, you know, and people were trapped. We saw them somewhere in the ground. We spoke with them. They asked for help, you know, screaming, and we tried to pick them up, but it was just impossible because nothing was available. Especially being a doctor, you know, I see what bad case scenario, what could happen.
Do you know approximately how many people were in that building?
Especially being a doctor, you know, I see what bad case scenario, what could happen.
Do you know approximately how many people were in that building when it collapsed?
It was about 90 nurses, Haitian nurses, and Haitian doctors among these numbers. Yeah, the best health or human resources have died in this place.
This is a Red Cross tent camp. It was set up very quickly. It was a very organized camp.
Betsy Wall from Cambridge, Ontario, has been coming to Haiti for years to run her family's charitable foundation. On January 12th, she and her daughter had just stepped off the plane from Montreal and arrived at the foundation's guest house.
Here's our street.
They were getting ready for dinner when they heard a deafening crack. Betsy, too, took pictures of a 4-story building that all but vanished. 5 people died here, including this man from Canada. He just stepped into the building to get a beer.
There were a group of people by the pool, and they were having a little prestige, and the one woman had a fly in her prestige beer, and he offered to go in and get her a fresh one. And he walked into the building and he was gone. We all sat and said that, well, if it would have happened 10 minutes later, or what if it would have happened yesterday?
Hello? At 4:53 that day, Andre Cadan was driving along this road. From Haiti originally, he's lived in Montreal for the last decade, working as a security guard. 2 months before the quake, he decided to move home, to start a business. He was on his way to look for an apartment.
Je voulais sortir, mais je peux pas ouvrir la porte parce que ma main, comme ça, je peux pas débarrer la porte. Et puis après, ça reste 2 secondes. Et puis j'ai dit, mais qu'est-ce qui arrive? Et puis ça recommence encore. C'est pendant que ça recommence, et puis cette maison-là, ça tombe. Je vois beaucoup de poussière, les gens qui crient, les gens qui sont en dessous des murs commencent à pleurer, et puis tout le monde 2 mains à la tête, beaucoup de poussière, et puis c'est là que je commence à comprendre qu'est-ce qui s'était arrivé. Il y a des morts partout sur le trottoir, alors c'était difficile, et puis ça reste pour... Je pense que ça va rester dans ma tête pour beaucoup d'années.
Andre's business is trucks. The earthquake scared him, and part of him wanted to run.
But in a country now drowning in rubble, he was a man with the means to move it.
À quoi c'est Wilfried? Une nouvelle. Regardez, ben oui. Mon cher Bamdou, moi-même, bon, je viens investir ici et que, comme pays a crasé, puis moi, mon chantier, on fait là, comme on a aidé pour moi 2-3 camions sable, pour commencer par brasser, pour me faire un petit brasse.
What's more, Andre had taken out loans, $130,000 worth, to buy his trucks, so he was stuck.
Ok, 38, 19, 11, 66, 34, 35, 76, 28. Ok, Wilfried, m'attends nous. Oui. N'importe ça, on va faire moi. Ok, n'a pas parlé de. Ok, Wilfried. Ok. D'accord. Ok, bien. D'accord. Merci. J'ai pas vraiment envie que j'avais avant 12 janvier, l'envie, l'engouement que j'ai pour venir habiter en Haïti. Après 12 janvier, c'est différent. Mais vu que là, j'étais déjà en route pour Haïti, je n'ai pas le choix.
You? Yes, it would be at Firma, maybe
To stay or to go was a dilemma for many foreigners in Haiti, but not for Yuri Zelinsky. In the last decade, he's had a hand in training virtually every eye doctor the country has produced. Months later, he's still treating patients in hot, open-air tents where disease can spread. He's determined the ophthalmology department will be rebuilt.
Since I survived the earthquake, I'm trying to use my courage to penetrate any kind of bureaucracy and try to convince people to have a look what's going on in the country, which is in such proximity to the United States and Canada. These people deserve better life.
Not all of Haiti was damaged by the earthquake. Far away from Port-au-Prince is the weekly market in Fond-Baptiste, one of the remote villages where Betsy Wall's foundation has been working for 30 years, training farmers and building agricultural cooperatives. It's worked. Fond-Baptiste is a rare Haitian success story, producing more than it can use. So when the earthquake hit, Betsy too saw opportunity to expand.
I thought, as sad as it is, our time has come. And that Haiti is going to rise out of the rubble. It's going to have to start feeding itself.
Her challenge now, getting the food from the farm to the famished. Andre's challenge, coming to terms with the murder that made him leave.
We said, man.
In the aftermath of Haiti's earthquake, the world rushed to help. Billions of dollars were pledged. Haiti would rise from the rubble stronger than ever, or at least that's what was said. 1 year later, it's hard to see what's changed here, and no one is quite sure where all that promised money went. And so people who work here, who care about Haiti, are back to square one, trying to hustle up funds. Back in Montreal, Dr. Yuri Zelinsky has big plans.
It's original, handmade architectural plan design for the reconstruction of hospital.
The earthquake flattened much of the ophthalmology department he spent his career developing. Together with Haitian architects, he's come up with a plan to rebuild.
This cost about 900,000, about $1 million. This particular project to serve a population about 40,000.
$1 million doesn't sound like much to build.
No, it doesn't sound, especially when I'm really furious when I see that somebody last week or last month bought a picture of Picasso for $100 million just for pleasure, for fun. And we are struggling for last 4 months to find $1 million.
Zelinsky is from Chechnya originally, so he knows about desperation and strife.
What do you read by yourself?
Diary of a One Kid.
Is it interesting?
Very.
For him, Canada has always been a refuge, a place where his family can have a normal life while he pursues the business of saving Haiti. These days, he spends most of his time writing and rewriting requests for money, 26 in the last year. He's hit all the big spenders, including the Bill Clinton Foundation, but so far he has yet to raise a dime for reconstruction.
We know that enormous amount of money being collected, but where is this money? Because I'm telling you, since the earthquake, I've been struggling to bombarding all these organizations with a proposal to allocate at least grants or start negotiation, because we desperately need the funds.
Hang on, it's a curly road here. In Cambridge, Ontario, Betsy Wall is hunting money too, to expand her network of agricultural cooperatives in Haiti. She is an unlikely development worker. Her background is in marketing. Today she's twisting arms at her foundation's summer golf tournament.
Hi, Betsy.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Having a great day.
Good.
Yeah, we're having a great time.
Well, you know, we do want you to show your generosity at the end of the day for such a great day. We're behind you here.
Of the billions of dollars pledged to Haiti, $220 million came from individual Canadians, a sum Ottawa promised to match. Betsy wants some of that money too. $743,000 to be exact. She's applying to Canada's International Development Agency, CIDA, to build 6 new grain silos. A no-brainer, she thinks, especially now.
If there was one single hue and cry, I think, that came out of the country, is that agriculture has to be the primary investment vehicle.
What will a new seed silo, what difference will it make to the people here if you get this money?
Well, it's a means of making money because it allows them to purchase the harvest from their members at harvest time and to store the crop until next planting season. Other than that, they would be forced to sell it you know, at a time where there would be a huge glut and they wouldn't get an attractive price.
How quickly is this needed?
Well, not soon enough.
Lorsque le zonage va être établi, ils vont pouvoir contrôler les usages, les densités et les types d'occupation. On va regarder ça un petit moment.
If there is one thing Haiti could use these days, it's urban planners. Olten Tasmina is one for the city of Montreal. He came to Canada decades ago to get an education, and like so many in the Haitian diaspora, he stayed to escape the violence and corruption he'd grown up with.
It's a hate and love relationship. It was my country, where I'm bored, where I have fun, where I met a lot of people. So there is a link, like a mother with her son, between Haiti and all the members of the diaspora. But anyway, I refuse to return because after knowing what democracy is, I would discover that this country is really, really a bad place.
Still, after the earthquake, Olten began to wonder whether every Haitian didn't now have a responsibility to help.
Il faut que vous puissiez mettre votre expertise en jeu, et puis comme ça, tout le monde pourrait en bénéficier.
It's a big question among the diaspora. His friend Christine Dijon tries to persuade Olten he'd be a huge asset as Haiti tries to rebuild. For him, it's a question of pride.
Et quand tu as dit, la diaspora n'a pas été contactée, mais comment peut-on savoir que toi, Olten, tu es urbaniste et puis tu veux faire quelque chose pour ton pays? Qu'est-ce que vous avez fait?
Non, c'est pas à nous de le faire. C'est au consul de, par exemple, aller dans les journaux et mettre un avis, ou le ministre de la diaspora émettre un avis pour ceux qui veulent donner leur aide de le faire.
Est-ce que c'est pas à vous d'aller au consulat, vous dites, écoutez, moi je suis urbaniste, voilà mes coordonnées, si vous avez besoin de quoi que ce soit, faites appel à moi, je suis disponible.
He decides he has to do something. In June, he emails his resume to Haiti's government, offering his help. Back in Port-au-Prince, Montreal's André Cadan has been hard at it for 9 months, trying to build his trucking business.
Mais on bon pan caoutchouc là, Moi, bon Jack.
Okay.
Financially, he's doing well enough, and he likes to think that his trucks and this passenger bus he owns are part of the real recovery Haiti is desperate for.
Haïti, on a besoin des gens comme moi, qui créent des emplois, qui font, parce que peu importe, maintenant, là où je suis, j'ai 8 personnes qui travaillent avec moi. J'ai 6 camions bascule, j'ai un autobus, ça fait 7. J'ai un autre bus, mais ça a déjà fait 8 personnes qui vivent. Ok, mais si tout le monde pense comme moi, donne emploi à 8 personnes, le pays ne va pas être comme ça.
But Andre knows from bitter experience that in Haiti, success can make you a target.
Comment ok. Mais pas de gain rien qui s'écrase là, dans ça? Oh, ok. Oui, c'est demain. Non, c'est demain cadeau. Non, c'est pas grave, ça fait 9 ans.
Ed Mercadan was his brother and business partner. 10 years ago, they owned a successful internet cafe together. It was his murder that convinced Andre to escape to Canada.
Ouais, mon grand frère a été assassiné par des bandits en 2001 pour une demande de rançon. Il m'a demandé un montant de $100,000. Moi, je pensais qu'il plaisante. Il m'a appelé au téléphone, il m'a dit « Hey André, nous on est chez toi, donne-moi $100,000, sinon on va exécuter ton grand frère. » Je pensais qu'il plaisante, qu'il jouait. J'ai dit un mauvais mot à eux. J'ai dit « Hey, mot d'imbécile, comment tu vas faire pour contrôler $100,000 ?» Et puis avec ça, blow, ils ont assassiné mon grand frère. C'était ça.
At the university hospital, Yuri Zelinsky knows the ambivalence many young Haitians feel towards their country, especially now. He's watched as eye doctors he's trained have left for better opportunities in Canada and the US.
You already made a decision, so you don't have a choice. You have to finish surgery. Okay? It's a cataract.
After the earthquake, Beatrice Valerius left too. It was one of Yuri's prouder moments when he was able to pull together a small grant to bring her and her badly needed talents home.
Okay, good.
Do you blame these people for wanting to go where they can...
No, because they have to survive. They have a family, they have children. But at the same time, I'm convinced that we have to create conditions and keep them in country to ensure long-term sustainable social development.
While Yuri struggles to make the hospital work, Betsy Wall is heading out of town, high up into Haiti's mountains. Even before the earthquake, the drive to her cooperatives in Fond-Baptiste took 7 hours, but she does it routinely, bringing whatever potential investors she can find.
Is this spring-fed, or is it river
runoff
fed?
Runoff.
Just runoff.
It's all runoff. Yeah.
Today, she's brought Chester Van Huysen and Kelvin Hunsinger, representing several Canadian churches. She's showing off a reservoir project she's developed jointly with Oxfam. Bosses in town, it seems everyone dresses to show off.
So last year at this time, was this also, has this pond ever been cleaned, or is this the first year?
No. This is the first time.
So this is the first time through the Oxfam funding?
Yes.
It's an important project. To better irrigate the fields, the reservoir has to be deeper. The mud collected is then used to fertilize other fields. Chester and Kelvin's churches raised millions after the earthquake. It's the kind of long-term project they're looking to spend it on.
I think what we need to see is sustainable development at the family level, at the grassroots household level.
We've invested a lot in food aid already, but we're really looking for opportunities to invest longer term. And part of the challenge of relief is that you're looking at deficits all the time, what people don't have. This is a great opportunity to look at what people do have working for them.
Yeah. What Fond-Baptiste has is extra food. What Betsy still needs is a when we come back, an exile returns to the country he abandoned and is shocked by what he sees. There is so much destruction in Port-au-Prince that any building that survived the quake quickly became a magnet for Haiti's homeless. This is the country's national soccer stadium, where at least there's water and toilets. And where today there is Olten Tasmin.
Ouais, the souvenir. The whole thing has been renovated.
As a young man, he played professional soccer here. It's been 30 years since he's been back to the stadium, and almost a year since he survived the quake. He's still not sure he belongs here, even now. Looking at the city he grew up in, Olten is surprised that so many months later there's still so much devastation.
Like the majority of Haitians, I have the feeling that nothing has really changed. For instance, you see the National Palace is still collapsed, and people, they have the feeling that icon, that landmark, is still at the same time January 30th.
After the earthquake, Haiti was awash in 8 agencies and NGOs. At one point, 10,000 different agencies were reportedly on the ground. Still, the only doctors to visit this tent city, less than an hour outside Port-au-Prince, are Yuri Zelinsky and his team from the University Hospital. There is no infrastructure here, no electricity, and no reliable source of clean water. For many, the one-day eye clinic is as close as they'll get to any kind of medical care.
She lost it.
Okay, she lost. Okay, if she lost and she asked, she came here to have a glass, yeah? Okay, you can... 55, good age, just ask her to read a little bit Bible to see. And keep it close.
Some of the fixes are easy. They hand out donated glasses. But there are bigger problems here. The lack of soap and water has spawned an epidemic of eye infections.
She's really have a dangerous condition. Emergency.
We need also, there is some possibility that the HIV test will be.
Okay, no, just put a glove and be careful. Take care of yourself.
Yuri first came to Haiti with an NGO, so he knows how those organizations operate. Today, he chooses to work for Haiti's government because as poor and as undeveloped as it is, he believes in the long term, a national healthcare system is his country's only hope.
It's important because if not national doctors come here, nobody will come here. Patients just will live there and suffering their own life.
What about all the NGOs and their
I
doctors?
hope that any NGO also will come, but to our knowledge, they are not, because as soon as this NGO will have difficulties with financing and leave the country, what they've been doing will collapse next day.
This is a silo. This was a silo that was constructed 15 years ago.
In Fond-Baptiste, Betsy too has her criticisms of the international development community. Today, it's Canada's CETA that has her frustrated. This is one of the silos she's asked CETA for money to replace.
There are 497 members, I believe, in this cooperative, and about 140 other non-members, but people that they also serve or who are customers or
And
clients.
this one silo services all those people?
Well,
Or this is
not
one-
really. You know, it can't anymore.
It's been weeks since she put in her request for money to access Canada's Special Earthquake Reconstruction Fund. And even though she's pared back her proposal from 6 silos to 3, she's had no word. She's not happy, but she's been around long enough to know it's not going to help her or the people of Fond-Baptiste if she's too outspoken.
Many of us are wondering, where has the money gone overall, not just with CETA funding. But CETA seems to be taking an approach where they are preferring to invest in organizations with a larger capacity as opposed to investing in smaller NGOs.
So does that make you hopeful, less hopeful?
Well, it makes us vulnerable with a standalone project.
Nine months after the earth shook, Andre Cadan is wavering. His trucks are busy and he's making money, but that's the problem. In a city rife with muggings and kidnappings, he doesn't feel safe. He ends each day before it gets dark and goes to some lengths to hide his trucks.
Parce que si nous coupons ça, nous avançons ça jusque là, parce que la boule la prend moitié, et puis l'autre la prend là, et puis nous mettons derrière, parce que derrière plus large.
The stress is getting to Andre, so much so, it's got him nostalgic for the brutal days of Haiti's dictatorship.
Comme j'étais petit, sous le gouvernement de Jean-Claude Duvalier, le pays n'était pas comme ça. C'était pas comme ça. C'était propre, et puis sécurité. Bon, des gens traitent mal le régime Duvalier avec toutes les macoutes, 30 000, 300 000 macoutes, mais avec les 300 000 macoutes, tout le monde dort tranquillement.
It's all got him wondering how much he really wants to stay. There's a lot to consider, and it's not just about him.
C'est qui? Madame Jacques là? Oh, vous êtes rentré bonheur comme ça? Maintenant, faut sortir dans un petit bal avant. On va venir. Comment quoi? Un deuxième. Voilà.
Andre's wife and kids are back in Montreal. This is his mother-in-law, and every night this is where she sleeps. The tarp was donated to Haiti, but she had to buy it on the black market. By Haitian standards, she is lucky, especially since she has Andre to help.
Non, c'est pour c'est juste un montage, vous comprenez? Fais-moi ça. Fais-moi ça.
This is his dilemma. If he stays and keeps making money, he'll be able to help his Haitian family even more. If he leaves, it's back to a security guard salary in Montreal. He doesn't know what to do.
Je veux rentrer, je veux revivre, retourner vivre en Haïti, mais au départ, j'ai mis en tête comme quelqu'un qui est en guerre. Si je dois retourner au Québec, si je dois rester en Haïti, je ne sais pas quoi faire.
Right across from the National Palace, Old Ten spots a tent city. The urban planner in him can't understand. Haiti has plenty of land to move people to, and there's all that donated money.
Before moving those people there, you might provide resources like infrastructure for water. When we have rain, we have provide education center, health and community center, church, soccer field, and roads. So this is easy to do. It's not complicated. A little strategic planning, able to welcome about 5,000 people.
Do you think people would move?
They will move. They will move. Yes.
To prove his point, he goes and asks them.
Si nous allons l'autre côté, est-ce que nous sommes d'accord, par exemple, que soit gouvernement, soit organisation internationale, t'as mis nos côtés qui gagne toilette, qui gagne rigole, qui gagne rue, qui gagne l'église, qui gagne parc football, qui gagne côté pour la contribution, et que nous n'avons pas besoin de venir là encore. Est-ce que nous avons un mot comme ça? Oui. Même si c'est à 10-20 km. Oui.
So with all his ideas, whatever happened to that resume he sent? His offer to help the government? Apparently nothing.
I am disappointed because they do not answer really to the letters I send them. It means that they're not really interested in diaspora, and I'm not the only one.
And Sewell Tan makes another decision. If Haiti's government doesn't want to use his skills, he's got other ideas. And one of them is pretty sweet indeed. "11 years ago, his cousin built a small resort on the Haitian island of Ile-la Vache.
So you ready for this big adventure again?
Ever since, he's been after Old Tan to help design an expansion. It's not the Haiti the world is used to seeing, but this is a world Old Tan understands. Yeah. With investors from the United States, he's convinced that high-end tourism is something Haiti can and should develop. After all, it has been blessed.
This is the plateau, which means where we can have lots of villas. Okay, whatever the way you build the villas, they have views.
No, everywhere.
Over Caribbean, in here, and over there, we still have the ocean.
Yeah.
After the lakes.
Yeah.
So that's.
Oh, it's perfect.
Otan, with all the destruction in this country, so much devastation, does Haiti really need a luxury resort right now?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But, you know, I would be able to contribute more after this disaster, because this is the only thing I know. It's planning, it's strategic planning. But, you know, there's still tourism. It's one of the industries which were okay. There's no governmental institution, there's nothing left, but there's still a little light in this darkness. You know, that's. I think I am helping by doing this.
It's made me feel really terrible, because every time I come here I feel that you deserve something better and you're expecting that I will bring you better news, but you know, I'm disappointing you time after time.
Once a week, Yuri meets with his partner at the university hospital. It's supposed to be an update on his efforts to find money. The report's never very long. There are no American investors offering to help him rebuild his ophthalmology department. Even the Bill Clinton Foundation, that declared Haiti a priority, turned him down.
Does it surprise you that you haven't been able to get people interested?
From one side, it's surprised, but yeah, I thought that such kind of disaster maybe will make people more sensitive to such kind of issue.
Well, it did at the beginning.
It did, yeah, but it's like emotional fuss gone, and it's business as usual.
One of the things with this latest ink technology from Epson is really dramatically improved permanence in a way that I'm very, very excited about. I think it's going to really change the way we think about longevity in a color print. In the end, really what's left is the print. I mean, we don't even know how long a digital file's going to last. So if the print survives, it's the only way I can continue to tell my story long after I'm gone.
So sometimes it's the small victories you have to savor.
No, we are here. How are you? We are here with our Lord, finally.
Betsy Wall and Yuri met each other years ago, but only reconnected on that January 12 flight from Montreal. He shared his concerns about losing staff, doctors and nurses who can't make it on their small state salaries. Betsy had a brainstorm. With funding from a small German foundation, the food grown in Fond-Baptiste now supplements what the hospital staff takes home. It's not a solution. The grant is only for 3 months. It's not even a model. Just two people who saw an opportunity to make something in Haiti work. When we come back, 4 Canadians who flew into Haiti on the day the earth shook, who stays and who will go. One year later, after the earthquake, after that flight from Montreal, the need in Haiti is still overwhelming. Just as overwhelming is the question, how do you save a country that even before the earthquake had so little?
Monsieur, excusez-moi. Est-ce que vous connaissez, je cherche cette femme.
Elle est là?
Elle est là où? Dans la classe. Ok, merci.
In one of his first camp visits after January the 12th, Yuri met a woman and her 2 children. In the mass of desperate humanity, he remembered them. She was seriously ill at the time. Her children reminded him of his own. In his trips back to Haiti, he's tried to find them, but they move from one camp to another. Today, he's got a line on where they might be.
Bonjour, bonjour, madame.
And he is right.
D'accord.
Je vous apporte 2 petits cadeaux pour l'école, pour les filles et pour les garçons.
Merci.
Parce que j'ai les enfants presque le même âge. Je connais comment l'école, c'est vraiment très important.
D'accord. Elle va faire bisous. Elle va adopter, viens.
Ok.
Ok. Oui, oui, c'est bon garçon, bon garçon. Oui, oui, oui. Ok, ok.
In a bleak world, it is a rare moment of sunshine.
I wish I can help to many people like this lady and her family. I don't mind to help everybody, but our help limited, but our funds. Scope of our funds determine the scope of our activity.
Bon courage. Ok, ok, au revoir.
It's a very good job. In the curve here, this curve was so stiff, so now it's getting smooth. You know, you can walk, you can take a bike if you want.
Back at Île-Vache, the resort is taking shape. Tan is finally using the skills he developed in Canada. As for the rest of Haiti, they'll have to make do without him.
I keep hoping it can stay like this. One way or the other, one day they're going to see